Okay, you guys, here we go. We're getting ready to do our jar painting. So we have drawn a basic jar for you that we're going to come back and do some shading and stuff to make it look a little bit more rounded and realistic. So right now it's just a shape, but we're going to take it to something a little bit more 3D later. Okay, first thing we're going to do is paint our sky, and what you're going to get is this blue, this purple, and they might be slightly different than my blue and my purple. And we might also throw in like a navy blue, I just didn't have any, and then some white. We're not going to use the white for a little bit, but the first thing I want you to do is start with some blue, okay? And you can paint your sky however you want to. This is going to be kind of an expressive sky. So if you want to do little patches of blue or little patches of purple, or if you want something to have some swirlies like a Van Gogh Starry Night, whatever you want to do. What I want to do is I want to paint mine blue, and I'm going to show you. I'm not going to paint the whole thing before I show you, but watch, because I've got this section done, okay? And then I'm going to come back with some purple, and I'm just going to do some purple in there too, and just let it all blend and make its own thing. You could also do just like little patches of blue or purple, or mix them up. You do want some separate colors though, okay? So we're going to paint our sky just like this. Do not paint inside of your jar. We're going to come back and do that later. So I'm taking time to make sure that I'm outlining my jar, okay? And even though we're going to have grass down here at the bottom, I want you to paint, and look right here, I'm just getting more purple. I want you to paint all the way to the bottom, okay? And then I also want you to paint your edges. As you go. All right, you guys finish that up, and then we'll come back and do grass. Okay, guys, so now I'm gonna switch. My whole background's painted, got my edges painted, okay? So now I'm gonna switch to a slightly smaller paintbrush, and I'm gonna choose either the blue or the purple, one or the other, okay? And I'm gonna mix some of this purple with a little bit of this white. And we're gonna do something really fun, okay? We are going, while this is all still wet, see how I'm mixing? I took some of the purple and some of the white, and I'm just mixing them, okay? We're gonna do some lines like they're coming out of the jar. Now, we wanna do this before we paint the jar, because if we do it after we paint the jar, it'll look like it's on top of the jar. So I'm gonna start them a little bit in, and that's okay. And I'm gonna do some of these just like swirlies, like they're coming out of the jar. Now we're gonna come around and through this in a little bit after everything dries, and we're gonna do some fireflies or lightning bugs, okay? So you wanna leave some space. You don't want too many of these. You just want a few, because I could put like a lightning bug here, and a lightning bug here, lightning bug here, lightning bug here, and we're gonna have grass down here, so you don't really want it to come way down here, okay? So I've got my lines. All right, like stuff's coming out of my jar and going into the air like magic. Have you ever heard that summer is magical? That's kind of what our painting is going to be about, okay? All right, now that we're done with that, I want you to blow dry it and then meet me back here to work on grass. All right, guys, actually, I know I said grass. I was wrong. We're actually going to work on our jar. So I'm going to give you some light blue. If you need a little bit more dark blue or a little bit of clean white, you can have it. But I always like to take bites out of the corners of my projects. So I still have some nice clean white and some nice clean blues. Okay, so I'm gonna mix these two blues right here, the light blue and the dark blue. To get kind of a medium blue. If it's nighttime and we have a jar, you can see through a jar, right? So we really want, and you can even get some white in there. So we really want it to be a lighter blue just so it stands out. But we also need it to be blue like the sky. Okay, so we're gonna paint it to start with kind of a solid shade. And then we're gonna come back And like I said, do some shading to make it look more 3D. Doesn't have to be perfect to be good. It's gonna look like a jar. I still have some purple on my brush because I didn't fully clean my brush out. The reason we wanted to do the jar first, that I realized after I said we were gonna do grass, is because we might want some of that grass to go on top of our jar. And if we do that, then our jar, we won't be able to paint it after. Okay, so I'm working on my jar. And we're actually gonna shade this a little bit while it's still wet. Okay, so I'm gonna lift it up and I'm gonna paint this edge wherever the jar is. I'm gonna paint it that color. Which is just our background color for our jar. And then over here, I already kind of painted this edge, but I'm gonna go ahead and paint as much as I can the jar over it. It doesn't have to be on there perfectly exactly the same. Okay. Now, while it's wet, what we wanna do is we wanna take some of this really dark blue and we wanna put some of that over here on the sides like this. You're just kind of blending it in with a few brush strokes. I'm just getting a little bite of dark blue and blending it in. Okay, then we're gonna take some of this white, just the white. And I'm not even rinsing my brush, you guys, okay? And we're gonna do a few lines like this with the white. At the top of our jar, we are gonna draw an oval like this. Okay, we're gonna take our white and we're gonna draw a little bit of an oval. And then you can do a few lines across like this with your white, like 1, 2. And then a couple more lines down, maybe like this and this with your white, okay? And that's gonna make our jar look like it has a little bit of dimension, all right? Now, in just a second, I'm gonna show you how to do the grass, and then we'll come back in and add our we'll blow dry it again after that, and then we'll come back in and add our fireflies. Okay guys, so I've blow dried for the most part my jar. So now we're gonna do some grass. Now, I'm gonna start out here with my grass. You've got dark green and you've got a lighter green. And my canvas isn't perfectly dry, but that's okay. The reason we took our background all the way down to the bottom is because I learned the hard way one time that when I don't do that, you get a weird line where the sky ends and you're green, okay? So that way it helps us. Now what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna start right here and I'm gonna do some grass coming out from my jar like this, okay? And then I'm gonna do some grass overlapping my jar just a little bit. You don't wanna do too much into your jar because we still have to come back in and put our fireflies in there, right? Okay, then I'm gonna come out here and do some more grass. Now, where you want the green to be really thick is at the bottom. So I'm coming back through and making sure my bottom is filled in. But then you can have these really cool, like wispy lines at the top. Okay, so I'm just coming through and doing my grass. Up and down, like this. Okay, and then at the bottom where I can see all of the sky stuff, I'm coming through and filling it. Sorry guys, I have a cough today. I don't know what's going on. My grass ended up getting a bit taller on the edge here. That's okay if that happens. All right. And I'm coming back, like I said, and filling in right here at the bottom so that you can't see any more sky at the bottom, okay? If you want to, you can come back with the other color, like the lighter grass color, or you can even add a little bit of white. Excuse me. Add a little bit of white to it. and that's gonna make that other color be a little bit lighter. And I'm not filling in as much. I'm just adding a little bit in there, okay? When it dries, be some different shades. Now over here, we don't wanna do too much either. Just gonna make a little piece of grass like right here. Like it's kind of sitting in the grass, but it's not covered by the grass, okay? That's our goal on this side. We're just adding a little tuft of grass right here. Okay, so that it's kind of being covered up by the grass, but not fully. All right, and now we are ready for our firefly. Okay guys, so this technique is really important. So we're gonna use a medium polka dot stamper and a tiny polka dot stamper for our fireflies, okay? Everybody's gonna use the same color at first. We're all gonna use the light yellow, and then we're gonna do a little finger painting for the darker yellow. All right, now, normally we want to dip and stamp, and that makes a really thick paint, but we want it to be kind of thin, all right? And we want some of that blue to show through if needed. So instead of dipping this in our paint, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our paintbrush. You might get a clean paintbrush for this step, and we're gonna paint just the top of our polka dot stamper. It doesn't have to be filled in all the way, okay? And then what that's gonna do, we're gonna press and twist, and you see how pretty and light that is? I'm gonna do a couple of these in the jar, and these are gonna be my fireflies, but we're gonna use 2 different sizes. So I'm gonna do a few of the big size, and it's okay if they don't finish all the way. Remember, they're supposed to look somewhat realistic. So I'm gonna do a few of these, and then I'm gonna come back, and I'm gonna do some of these smaller size. And again, I'm taking this light yellow, and I'm just painting it on top so that it's not thick paint, okay? Now, if you noticed last time, I did not go back for more paint. So I'm gonna come into the jar, and I'm gonna do a couple of these. I'm gonna put one like it's coming out of the jar right here. And if you have some blues that are not fully dry and they mix in and you get some green, that's okay, all right? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back, and with my fingertip, I'm gonna take this dark yellow, and I'm gonna put like a darker yellow dot in the center. And what that's gonna look like is where the darker yellow is, it's gonna be like that's where the firefly is. Right? That's where the light is emanating from. And then as it goes out, it gets lighter, okay? Now, I also have some little yellow spots in some places, and those can just look like stars, okay? Once you're done with this, you're gonna blow dry it again for a little bit, focusing on especially the grass and the jar. And then one of the teachers is gonna outline the jar for you, okay? And that's just gonna bring everything together. These are gonna be so pretty, and I can't wait to see everybody is all finished.